This video is all about how to improve attendance in career sessions, and this video is for careers advisors working in universities who are trying to engage more with their students. I think all of us have had experience of being at the front in a lecture theatre, waiting for the students to turn up and having a very small number of students coming, maybe on like a voluntary module or perhaps through like an optional session that you're running for students. So just as a little bit of an introduction, I think it's important to recognise that it does matter if students don't attend. The things which you're trying to teach students about their career development, their career learning, they're valuable for all students. And really a key starting point is for us to really make this case to others within the university, such as academics and other people who are involved in running and delivering modules. From the student's perspective, one of my own key learning points on the job over the last few years has been the realisation that students are motivated by marks. And this, as a practitioner, for me, means that what I need to do is I need to work at my relationships with academics to get to a position where there are at least a few percent of the marks in a particular module devoted to employability. We want students to value this career learning in the same way as they value their academic content. So even a small amount of marks given over to the assessment of careers learning is going to have that impact and hopefully get students to attend. So I suppose this leads us to a number of key challenges. Finding the right modules to embed employability into. If we're going to embed employability, there's probably a challenge there as to how and to what extent we get involved in assessment, and that obviously can be quite time consuming. And another challenge is that with larger and larger numbers of students coming to university, how can we assess employability in a way that is meaningful and efficient? So what I'm going to do now in the next section is just to give some tips around how to kind of embed employability in order to get better attendance in career sessions. So the first tip then is that this process actually can take time and can take a lot of energy, a lot of perseverance, winning people over in your department, in your subject areas, acting in a consultancy role. And one of the things to think about is it might be best just to kind of pilot this approach in a couple of subject areas with a couple of lecturers, get that good practice established within a department, and then to share that best practice with other colleagues and to say, look at what we achieved in this particular subject area. A second tip is around building an alliance with colleagues, like-minded people who think in a similar way. This may just be not only academics but also people who are in administrative support, other people you know in the college, colleagues in timetabling. So it's important to have that support network around you. My third tip would be about using technology to lessen the assessment load. So for example, on one of the modules I'm involved in teaching currently, the college I work in, College of Engineering, has paid for something which is called VMOC, which is a CV assessment tool, where students get 10 uploads of their CV, and then artificial intelligence is used to give them feedback on this CV. Students can upload their CV and improve their marks each time. So this has meant that in a module where there's 700 students, and each student will then be able to get this individual feedback, but without necessarily coming to me each time they want to improve their CV. So from an assessing point of view, what I'm doing there is quality checking a sample of the marks instead of individually marking hundreds and hundreds of CVs. So having a think about that use of technology is another one of my tips. The fourth tip is to use a concept which you're probably familiar with, which is backwards action planning. So think about 10 years time. The year is 2029, and imagine that employability is embedded in the curriculum in your university, students are attending, they're engaged. What are all the different steps that are needed to make that happen? So for example, piloting assessment in some subject areas, the relationships you've had to build, finding the key modules to embed employability within to hit the biggest number of students. So that tip is about looking forward, but then thinking about, if we're going to be successful over the next 10 years, what are those individual steps we need to take? And my final tip is, once your work is embedded into modules and academics can see the value of what you've done, it becomes much easier to shape the curriculum and the learning of students. Okay, so once you've done that, hopefully you create that tipping point and that momentum behind what you're doing. You're very welcome to get in touch with me if you've got any questions about this, or if you'd like any more information. Thank you.